welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFL/AFLW round review. The last, thankfully, of these overlapping rounds. Holy crap, 16 games in a round is not always fun, but you want to know what? For a footy loving head like me, this was amazing. And to join me, to talk about this round, a good, very good friend of mine joining me from Victoria, one of my favorite people to talk to from Joy 103.3, Chicks Talking Footy host. We have Fiona Newton. Fee, it is great to see you.
Thanks, Donnie. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It has been way too long between drinks for us, but we've made it work.
Definitely, definitely, for sure. It is always great to see you. Always great to chat footy. I love your perspective on things, and especially for a podcast like this, I think it was kind of perfect that we agree that you are hopping on the podcast. Let's go right into it. Let's get into the footy. That's what we're here for. We've been through round 24. I know we still have a game, and we've been through women's round two. Your thoughts on 16 incredible games of football with a little bit of everything?
Yeah, look, it's a funny time with the women's football's been moved back 2 weeks this year, whereas last year and the year before it started on the bye round, so
Mhm.
the round that happens in between the home and away season and the final series starting, which gives it a little bit of clear air to launch on its own merit. So that no, there's no other footy going on. The men's footy's paused, and the women's footy's been launched in that window. But the problem they encountered, obviously, was that they were squishing games in extra games in a week. So there was Tuesday and Wednesday night games, which meant there was some teams playing 3 times in a week, which turned out to be bad injury management, exhaustion management. And, for example, if a player got a concussion on a Saturday, they might miss 2 games that week because there's a game on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and another game on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday the next week. So they've moved it back, which I think it's missed an opportunity there just to um, give it some clear air to start. I think there's so much focus on the last couple of rounds of the home and away with the men and the build up to the finals, and it's been a particularly dramatic season for the men that I think it's robbed the women's footy a little bit of
Mhm.
some free air.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. It's one of the reasons I trumpet it, and I know some people don't like it, but I just don't like the people. I know that even some of the players have said, "Well, let's play the women's season at the same time as the men's." And I go, "Well, all due respect, then who's going to talk about you?" Like, I don't mean to be mean, but who's
Mm.
going to talk about you? Because you don't get much coverage now, and after in about 3 weeks, once the men's finals are over, most of the footy shows stop. Okay,
Yes.
there's no AFL 360 talking about the women's league. All due respect, I love it.
Mm.
I wish they did. They won't. Okay, there's no couch. Okay, there's on AFL.com.au. There's a couple of shows on there, but other than that, there's not. So the argument that I have all the time, and I will trumpet it and I will continue to trumpet it, is the women's league must be separate from the men if you wanted to get the coverage that many of the W fans want. If you wanted to continue to play second fiddle to the men, okay, play it then at the same time. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to get the same amount of attendance, if not less. You're going to get the same amount of enthusiasm, if not less. And I hate saying that, and I don't want to because I want this competition to grow. Because as we're
Mm.
seeing this year, look at some of the incredible talent that we have been had the pleasure of seeing this year. And I'm not just talking about my team. I'm not just talking about Ash Centra at Collingwood. I'm not just talking about Havana Harris at Gold Coast. I'm talking about all these incredible youngsters, Lucia Painter and Ella Roberts out in the West Coast. You're seeing Indy Rashid find a way in a very good Crows team, finding a way to make an impact. There are some
Yeah.
incredible players. And again, talking to my draft guide, the number one overall girl this year could be the best of them all coming in
Mm.
this year in Ava Usher, who again is another Gold Coast Academy player. So I want these girls to get the publication that they deserve. And right now, if you're running it at the same time as the men's, I just don't know if you're getting that. And I think that's the
Yeah,
frustrating part
especially
about this.
I agree, Donny, and I think especially right now. And I
Mhm.
think I would love the women's to be able to run alongside the men's season, but as I think you're right, it's going to be hard to get anyone talking about it when the men's is on as well. I think there's
Mhm.
room for double headers though. Like I think there could have been some double headers in the last couple of weeks where the women play before a men's team, and I mean I would go to that. I would go down and watch the women's and then stay around, watch the men's, make a
Mhm.
day of it.
Mhm. My
I
worry,
think they've had some success when they have tried that. So
yeah, my worry with that though is that one, most likely, and I hate saying it, the women would be the one that would have the less, like, you would have to play it first, because I know one time I was actually getting ready
yeah,
because the men played for the Swans and then the VFL team played, and literally
no one
90
stayed around.
95% of the people left. Nobody stayed for the
Yeah,
VFL game. So it's like, that is my worry, is, are the people crazy enough, and this is me spitballing just the tiniest bit, are there people crazy enough to sit around for 5 hours of football? Because that's right now, that's,
yeah,
I
that
think the
would be hardcore people. You're
men's game
right.
is too long. The women's game, I think, is perfect. The 2 hour time
I
is like
agree.
absolutely spectacularly perfect, especially for me, because you don't have to worry about it taking up too much time. But the men's game is going 3 hours.
Yeah,
So that's my issue,
yeah.
is that if you do double headers, that's 5 hours of footy. Not everybody
And
has the
not just that, it's getting
patience.
to the ground, getting home from the ground. You know, you're
Exactly.
talking about a 7 or 8 hour day.
Exactly.
So yeah,
So,
it does get crazy. So
exactly.
it's yeah, it just feels like it's been a little bit experimental
Yep.
recently with the women's. One of the other issues is that the women don't have as much of a home ground that
Yep.
the
Yep.
men have. I think we're playing on almost double the amount of grounds across Australia than the men are,
Yep.
and there's not real grounds that we call that's the home of women's footy.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, and that people make their way to each weekend
I agree.
and go and see some footy. So
Yep.
I think they need to settle that in, make
Mhm.
some really invest in the grounds being able to have the capacity for women's football.
100%, 100% with you. So now that we've had our fun, and I know you and I could talk forever about this, because again, I'm super passionate about the women's game. Again, I think it deserves and has earned so much more than what AFL House and what many people give it credit for. So, but we'll roll it back. We will get our W on just a little bit. Let's get the men out of the way. Round 24 has come, it is
Yes.
gone, and as we said, there's still one more game left, because Cyclone Alfred decided it wanted to wheel its ugly head at the start of the year, but has given us some excitement after round 24, because there's still one more game left. The finals still are not set. So let's go through our
Yes.
results. Round 24. Here are the results. We'll discuss a little bit, and then we will look at that final game coming up here in less than 24 hours from time of recording. We start off Thursday night footy sees the Carlton Blues end their season with a little bit of positivity, getting a 34-point win over the Essendon Bombers. Collingwood survive a scare, but the D's just surviving with a 6-point win over the D's, 82-76. Port Adelaide sent Kenny Hinkley and Travis Bokoff into the sunset with a win, with the 4 points, getting a 4-point win over the Suns, causing the Suns now to be just a little bit tighter going into this
Yeah, this
final
helped create
game.
some of that drama.
Exactly. Adelaide Crows survive a scare from the North Melbourne Kangaroos, 113-100. The Cats smash the Richmond Tigers, 103-64. Sydney goes hold my beer, we'll do it too, and smash the West Coast Eagles, 118-51. The Giants get a scare from the Saints at NG Stadium, but get the 4 points with a win, 104-93. The Dockers shock the world, knocking off the Doggies and making, as my co-host on off mic had said, many Doggies supporters will be Essendon Bombers supporters come this Wednesday, as the Dockers get a 15-point win, 112-97, and Brisbane unimpressively yet impressively get a 10-point win at the Gabba, 90-89. 79. And as we said, that last game will be Wednesday between Gold Coast and Essendon. So the round technically is over, but we still have one more game to go. So some fascinating results, as we said. The finals is still in limbo with that loss by Gold Coast. But I mean, which game would you like to start off with first? Because I mean, a cracker between Collingwood and Melbourne, and Port Adelaide and Gold Coast made for quite the interesting start of the week.
Yeah, look, Collingwood have certainly had a dive over the last month or so where they've lost quite a few games. They're certainly not playing like a finals team, and to only beat Melbourne by a goal at this point in the season too is not an impressive win by any stretch. I think yeah, Port Adelaide, it's a little bit of a poetic win as well. It was Ken Hinkley's last game as coach. Travis Boak retired. So them coming out with a win against Gold Coast was quite a nice little send-off
Mhm.
for their supporters, players, coaches at Adelaide Oval. So congratulations to Port Adelaide. But it did create, as you said, that drama that where Gold Coast, if they had have won that game, would have really solidified their place in the finals, but now they're playing for their life.
Mhm.
So that was a really interesting game. I think the other interesting game was the Fremantle Western Bulldogs.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't expect the Western Bulldogs to win that game. Mainly, they haven't beaten top eight teams
Mhm.
much. I think they've only beaten one top eight team this whole season. So they're not, even though they've kind of made enough points and percentage to get where they are, they haven't been a side that's been good enough to beat, the top eight
Mhm.
teams. And Fremantle, they've been playing exceptionally well. So they really held Western Bulldogs by the throat pretty much
Mhm.
after halfway through the first quarter, and very much deserve their place. But I would actually say look out for Freo during the finals. I
Mhm.
think they've been playing exceptionally well. Of course, I'm a Hawks supporter, so I was watching the Hawks Brisbane game and throwing things at the TV while I was watching that game. I mean, a lot of people are saying we were robbed because of free kicks because there was some dodgy or some questionable free kicks
Mhm.
in the final quarter, but the reality was Brisbane kicked 23 behinds. If it's not how you win a game of footy, kicking
Mhm.
behinds, you've got to kick the ball between the big sticks. I don't know if you know about that strategy, Donny, but
You
big
would
part of the
think, you
strategy
would
of
think, right?
AFL is kick them between the big sticks, not the little sticks. And if they had have kicked straight and been accurate through the night, I mean we could have lost that easily by 10 goals.
Hmm.
I don't feel like Hawthorn were ever in that game. Hawthorn and Brisbane were, playing that match really for a top four spot, and
Hmm.
Brisbane very much deserved out of that game to be in a top four spot. So we are now either seventh or eighth, and
Yep.
that will be determined by the Gold Coast Bombers game. If Gold Coast lose, we will be seventh. It
Hmm.
doesn't really matter in terms of the final structure too much, though, other than playing a home game.
Yep.
But
No.
I'm sure we'll all be watching that Gold Coast Bombers game, but not much hope for the Bombers, I would say.
Yeah. Much more eyeballs on that game than I thought originally. Because the other thing that you think about too is if Gold Coast win that game against Port Adelaide, they get Essendon with a chance to jump into the top four. Like that was the
Yeah, that's
math
true.
was there. So Gold Coast now go from a potential top four to now, I mean, just basically scraping into the
Fighting for their
finals.
life.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, the math that I have heard, I think Lee Montagna did it on one of his podcasts that he did, is that Gold Coast win by 5 goals or more, they're seventh, Hawthorn's eighth. If Gold Coast win by 4 goals or less or lose, then things get interesting because if they lose, the doggies stay in. If they win, but are 4 goals or less, then they're eighth and they go out to Fremantle. So it's very interesting. Basically, Fremantle and GWS now don't know their opponent. It's basically down to what Gold Coast does. They win by 5 goals or more, they play GWS, and Hawthorn play Fremantle. If
Wow.
they win by 4 goals or less and win, then Gold Coast goes out to WA, and then Hawthorn plays GWS at NG Stadium. So it's going to be quite the interesting one. Like I said,
Yeah, it's amazing how much pressure's on this game, isn't it?
yep. And the Western Bulldog supporters are all going to be wearing red and black and barrack. Their lives up that the Bombers pull the upset of the century. So now I'm
So
with
it
you.
really would be. It really would be. But I think the top four is locked in,
Yep.
but the bottom four
Yeah,
not so
they've
much.
already they've
So
already given us the matchups. We know Thursday night footy is the Adelaide Crows hosting Collingwood, and the Friday night footy is Geelong at the MCG.
yes,
Ugh, I won't go there.
Geelong and
Sorry.
Brisbane.
At the
Uh,
MCG,
it's hard to know
not
where
at.
Geelong's really at because they've had such an easy run home. I think they've played all of the bottom teams on their on their
Yep.
way home.
As I've heard so many times, the soft draw, the only one was Sydney, and Sydney decided to fall on her face in that particular game. So
Yeah,
you would have no idea I'm a Swans fan when it comes to it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I want to go really quickly with you. The Fremantle game. I mean, that is an for me. That is an amalgamation of the Western Bulldogs season. They look fantastic at times, but when they need to have their best performances, they fall flat on their face. And it's very
yeah,
frustrating because they are, I mean, I hate saying it because it's used a little bit more than I agree, but they are a flat track bully. They destroy the teams below them and they struggle against the teams that are above them. I mean, the Dockers look fantastic. I mean, their forward line is gonna give it's going to give headaches to anybody. Like if I'm a top four side and Fremantle is on my side of the bracket, I'm a little worried because if you lose that first game, the straight sets scare is huge with the Dockers because they've shown they can go on the road even to Victoria and get wins.
yeah,
They've got some incredible talent on that, and they you know that they're playing inspired because they want to get Fifey a flag as he retires in his retirement year. I mean, how awesome is that story? Is Nate Fife getting a flag in his last game of his career in the grand final if they could pull it off? So there's a little bit of emotion back there too. So again, the Knockers are going to be one of those teams. They're my smoky. They're my outside of the top four
yes.
side that
Right,
I
me too.
see could potentially winning the whole thing, just like the Brisbane Lions did last year. So let's go to it. Let's go to the women. I want to give the women some shout because this was an incredible round two of football. We started off with an incredible one on Friday night footy at Ash Centre and the Collingwood Magpies get a win over GWS by 8, 33-25. The Melbourne Demons with an impressive stomping of the St Kilda Saints 89 to 215. The Sydney Swans put up one of their best ever scores, putting up the 100, 103-21. Chloe Malloy take a bow, 7 goals, 3 in that particular performance. The Brisbane Lions go, you want to know what? Hold my beer.
And
We're
fresh
going to
back from
do
an
it too.
ACL injury as well.
I know exactly. Brisbane get a 105, a 35, a 70-point win over the Fremantle Dockers. Your beloved Hawthorn Hawks survive a pesky, tough test by the Carlton Blues 30-22. The Western Bulldogs with a little bit of a shocker, beating out the Richmond Tigers 42-21. North Melbourne continues to just chug along with a 72-point win over the Port Adelaide Power 87-15. Essendon and West Coast playing a classic at Windy Hill with a 5-point win by the Bombers 31-26. And the Crows find their form with an incredible fourth quarter to get a 38-point win over the Cats 65-27. So an incredible round of football, some classic games, some absolute blowouts. I mean, the one thing I want to say just quickly before we break into the line is how about the bags of goals that we're seeing? Seven by Chloe Malloy, if I
Mm.
remember correctly. What was it? Taylor Harris kicked 4 in this game. Love seeing the higher scores in the women's game, but I thought they didn't score points or it didn't have big scores in the women's
Yeah,
footy.
it's low scoring. Jazzy Garner 6 goals
Yep,
as well from
Jazzy.
North
Yep.
Melbourne.
Hopefully
But
she
she's
gets
all
3 votes for that one.
well. The funny thing is
Ash
her
Riddell got
teammate.
43. Yep.
Yeah, Ash Riddell, like 43 disposals. She's always stealing the umpires' votes from her
Yep.
teammate there. So maybe they're a little bit competitive with each other. Who knows? But I would love to see Jesse Garner actually get the best and fairest
So would
one. Yeah,
have the competition.
yeah.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That wasn't that's it's insane. Like I remember last year at the count last year, Jazzy got her first votes in like round seven, and the entire room erupted. So I'm
Yeah, it's like this is
100% with you.
just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like,
I think she's one of the best. I mean, she's definitely still one of the best
oh yeah,
players in the competition,
absolutely.
and still can't get the umpires to vote to give her votes. So I'm
I
not sure
heard
what's
somebody say
going.
she needs to get pink. She needs to get pink boots and dye her hair blonde.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't agree. I don't agree with it, but it's like something to get the umpire's attention. Holy crap! But no,
yeah.
so
Well, I mean, Ed Marinoff, who's won the best and fairest, she's not blonde with painted nails, and um, you know, Daisy Pearce.
yeah, true.
They're all different. They're all different.
Yeah.
But I actually met Taylor Harris last year. She spoke on a panel that I hosted for International Women's Day,
Hmm.
and she was just a lovely, lovely, inspiring person. She's done so much for women
Hmm.
in footy, but also against, the commentary against women in
Yeah.
social media. So she's
Agreed.
a great person. You Swannies, though, you cracked the mysterious 100 points.
Hmm.
Not too many women's teams have done that yet. So congratulations to the Swannies on the weekend.
Yeah, that was it was impressive. Seeing Chloe, she's got 11 goals in the first two rounds. So it's been absolutely insane. I've loved seeing it. For me, the Swans team, like, oh, Swans TV for half a second. My apologies. I can't not glow. I can't not glow about this team. Zippy Fish again, another 26 disposals, and this one looking absolutely another she gets the Rising Star nomination. I know some Swans fans weren't happy she didn't last week, but I have to give Lucia Painter round one. You kick some goals
Yes.
in your debut. I don't mind that. I knew Zippy would get one. I knew it. I wasn't that worried about it. And you only can get one for the year. You can't get multiple. So now that she's got it, she won't be voted again. So it doesn't shock me. They just looked incredible. I said from the beginning, I thought North Sydney Oval, they kind of survived Richmond a little bit because I think the way they're playing footy this year, the bigger ground is actually going to help them.
Mm,
So North Sydney was a little bit worse. I think they kind of survived. It brought the game a little bit closer because it was much more congested because of the smaller ground. When they play at Henson later this year, they're going to look fantastic. I'm interested to see how they do this week with GMHBA playing Geelong because it's a skinnier ground, but still
yeah.
long. So it'll be fascinating to see. But I've so good to see Ali Morfitt back. Chloe Malloy is back. I love seeing the additions: Darcy Maloney, Ash Van Loon, Jasmine Jazz Grierson. The Swans just did such an awesome job this offseason that they really filled some holes, brought some experience. Lulu Painter, I almost forgot Lulu. Didn't pull her. Lulu, do not want to forget Lulu. She was fantastic. I loved the way the group has played this year. It's been fantastic. It's so much fun. They're playing exciting, attacking football. Sometimes a little scary defensively, but so I will get off my off my soapbox there. So
Yeah, but your Swannies are certainly looking good at the start for a season.
they're
So,
so
but
much fun to watch. So
one of the controversies that came out is my coach Dan Webster. He kind of came out saying,
oh
and I
yeah,
agree with him about the
the whole
pendulum swinging towards the free kicks, going towards tackles
yep.
rather than rewarding someone
Hmm.
earning the footy. I
The new
think there was
holding the
something
ball
like
rule. Yep.
42 free kicks in the Hawks
Yep.
Carlton game,
Yep.
and half of them were for holding the ball.
Hmm.
So for me, it's stopping the game. It's not letting the flow of the game and not rewarding the play. Like Emily Bates, our captain, she had six free
Like
kicks
6 times. Yep.
against her for holding the ball, and it was just like, well, she's a player that earns the footy and
Hmm.
gets the footy moving and going, and to keep rewarding the tackler like that, I think the game is going to lose something. So I agree with my coach on that one.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I watched the the wrap up show that Sarah Ollie and Kate McCarthy, and Kate McCarthy kind of went on a little bit of a diatribe on this, and I agree with her. It's my worry with the way the new holding the ball is being adjudicated in the W. is almost like the exact opposite of what it was in the men's about 2 years ago, when you could do a 360, almost 720, still have the footy, not get rid of it, but not get called holding the ball, and then you can handball it like last minute and you won't get called for holding the ball. In the women's game this year, I'm noticing a lot like girls are collecting the footy and having zero time at all once they've collected the
Yeah.
footy to get rid of it, and they're getting pinged, and I'm sitting here going like we've went almost too far. And like I get it that they're trying, because I know that there's been tons of complaining, at least in the men's side of complaining of tackles aren't being rewarded. Just because you tackle somebody doesn't mean that it's holding the ball. Like that,
Mm.
it's the other misconception that I think sometimes in the game. It's like people saying that inside 50s are a stat about how effective people are. They're not. Inside 50s are such a minute stat. Personally, tackles are one of those that I get that. Well, a team laid 75 tackles. Congratulations. Well, did they lay 75 tackles while the person's getting rid of the ball, where they're not effectively making a tackle and stopping the play? We don't know that, because I don't know are you going to sit here and run me through each of the 75 tackles that they did in the game so we can tell me, was it an effective tackle or was it just a, hey, pooh, tackle? Like, it's not anything that could have caused the holding the ball. In this game, like I watched, they showed Emily Bates, like all six of Emily Bates' holding the balls. Maybe only one was there. The rest of them should have been balls up. Should have been a ball up. Should have been no no opportunity to get rid of the ball, no prior, and ball up. But the adjudication has went almost way too far the other way. And I'm hoping it's like a pendulum. It'll swing back to at least a little bit more normal. But my worry is, I agree with you, is that it's gonna deter players from wanting to grab the ball if they're worried about, oh no, if I pick up the ball, I'm gonna get a holding the
Yeah.
ball. Like that's
Yeah.
and everybody's like, well, it's not gonna happen. Well, it's going to happen because players are smart. They know it's like the ghost tackle now in the men. Now you're seeing people tackle a player to the ground, pull their arms off of them while the person is just laying on the ground, and then them grabbing the jersey and looking at the umpire to try to get a holding the ball because they've released the tackle. Like, I understand it's footy IQ by smart people, but it's not the way the game is supposed to be adjudicated if you're going to have the prior opportunity. Like, it's almost like prior opportunity doesn't matter anymore. Like, it is now basically where you get it, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
the only thing that you're producing for me personally is you're going to produce players just smacking it around, not wanting to possess it unless they're in wide open space because they're so worried about getting a holding the ball call. And
Yeah, and that's going to promote lower scoring, games that are
exactly.
harder to watch because
Mhm.
I find games with lots of stoppages frustrating to watch.
Yep.
You know, I want
Yep.
to see fast action. I want to see the ball moving
Mhm.
around,
Yep.
the strategy of the players. If the umpire's interfering with the game, I mean, 42 free kicks
It's a lot.
in itself just says the umpires are just a bit too involved in the game
Hmm.
and start to have an effect on the game that I find just it goes beyond
Yep.
making sure the game's safe or the game's doing
Hmm.
what it needs to do
Yep.
to interfering too much.
Yep. Yep. 100%
Like,
agree
let
with
us
you.
play footy.
Yep. Yep. No, I mean, in the players, you could tell the players were starting to get frustrated towards the end because they were like, they didn't get why they were getting pinged so much. So 100% on that one. So, I mean, I want to go to this. Let's go to Windy Hill. How fantastic is it to see Windy Hill full of red and black, and to see a cracking game? They were treated to a fantastic one. The West Coast Eagles, I am loving what Daisy Pierce is doing. I know they fall by five in this one, but she's got some rippers. Ella Watson, Emma Swanson, Charlotte Thomas, some incredibly young, super talented players fall just a little bit short. The Bombers survive. And I'm interested your thoughts on this one, because this is a Bombers team. They're going to be scrappy all year. They're fighting through it. They don't have their number one ruck, so they're trying to kind of survive without their ruck this year. They're getting it done. But this is another absolute nail biter at Windy Hill.
It's I think I mean Daisy Pierce, I remember her, you know, sitting behind we were sitting behind her at Whitten Oval
Hmm.
in the Whitten stand, and the whole game she's talking to the girls next to her showing them what the strategy is on the ground, what they should do, basically coaching them.
Hmm.
And this was like 10 years ago, when she was just starting to play AFLW. But she's just such a natural leader and coach, very passionate about what she does.
Yep.
So yeah, love Daisy.
Yep. I will trumpet this. I think West Coast, as if they can keep putting some talent under Daisy and let her absolutely just do what she does. This is a West Coast team. They're gonna do some things, especially with the super talents that they have. Again, Maddie Praspark is fantastic. The Bombers getting it done. That was an incredible game to watch. The roar at the end when the siren went, the Bombers won. It was absolutely incredible. Just a great one. And then I got to ask you for this. How cool is it? We'll go back to the first game of the week. How cool is it that one of the viral footy sensations this year is a women's footy player doing a special bounce? The Ash Centra bounce has taken over the footy world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's been fantastic. And then I got to give it Ash Centra. She might not be putting up the huge numbers, but she's doing the effort things, helping Collingwood get the win by 8 over GWS at Victoria Park this week. It's so much fun to watch her, like to see these young talents. Like I said, Zippy Fish up at Sydney. You're seeing Jess Wrench up at West Coast. You're seeing Molly O'Hare down in Melbourne. You're seeing Indy Rashid over, and I mean, I am loving these youngsters, but I kind of agree with what they said on the show with oh my God, seriously, Sarah Ollie and Kate McCarthy is this week
I,
we had some veterans show up this week. I mean, you had Taylor Harris have a great one, Jazzy Garner having theirs. This was just an incredible round of football. So
Sabrina Frederick,
yeah, so
she's
yeah.
another star player for Collingwood. Yeah, I mean, some of those players now have been playing, I think, well, yeah, nine seasons,
Mhm.
uh, 8 years. So they're getting well into their 30s, some of them, and they're still playing really top footy. So
Yep. Yep.
uh, we're starting to see, and it'd be interesting to see where they go after their career, whether they become coaches, become commentators, where do they go after this season, and more and more that'll mean there's pathways for women doing commentary, doing after the game shows, and that's been part of the problem too, is there hasn't been pathways for women in sports media
Mhm.
to find their feet. We've had initiatives here in Victoria called Change Our Game, where
Mhm.
it's been a mentoring program for women. Unfortunately, the state government's just shut down the Office of Women in Sport and Recreation here just through budget cuts. But there's been about 100 women that have gone through that program that have gone on to do sports broadcasting. But I think the people that will really be able to do that is the people that have been playing football, in the AFLW for 9 seasons, been there since the beginning. I mean, the knowledge they're going to have to go on into the media, particularly, and coaching, I think is going to be fantastic.
100%. You don't want them to retire because you love seeing them play, but you know that they could do some really big things for the women's game in the media and
Yes.
out in the on the public. So cannot wait for that. So that is all of the games broken down. That is the 2 rounds. Again, we get a break from the men's and the women take center stage this week with the bye week. But let's go to the burning questions. I will say this right now. This was not intentional how this played out, and I didn't like that it played out this way, but I have the perfect co-host to discuss it because the problem, the footy world was wrapped with the whole Isaac Rankin situation, okay? And it has split the footy world in two in many different ways, okay? As as many people know, I am a huge supporter of the women's footy. I am also one that I think that inclusion in football is absolutely crucial for so many people. And as some of you know, Fee is part of a radio station that is fantastic, that it does a lot of great things for a community that is had a lot of issues. The LGBTQIA, I can never remember them all. My apologies for butchering this. They're an
Just say the,
incredible
the
community.
rainbow
Yeah,
community.
the
Yeah.
rainbow community. and
Yeah.
and Fee is part of this community, so I will go to it, Fee. What does the AFL sanction and everything that's happened with the Isaac Rankin situation, as somebody that's part of that community that has
Mm.
constantly had to deal with bull,
Yeah.
what does it say to you? Because personally, this has been a tough week for me because someone like yourself and so many of my friends down in Australia who I know are part of this community, this has been a really tough week for them.
I mean, it's not just that it's been a tough week. I mean, this has been part of the AFL culture for such a long time. In the last since the AFL have sort of taken some measures, there's been five players that have been suspended for homophobic slurs on the footy field, and a coach, Alistair Clarkson. He also used a homophobic slur to sledge an opposition player himself. So, and he got a $20,000 fine. So it's it's something that keeps coming up, and it is a problem. And look, we've been doing work in this field. I think we broadcasted the first ever Pride game between Sydney Swans and St Kilda back in 2016. And I then started the Hawks Pride group. And there's most teams have a LGBTI supporter group associated with their club, and we have worked together over the years as the AFL Pride Collective. So one of the things that I've encountered in all of that work is really there's three things that I think need to come together. One is visibility, where we see players in rainbow socks and we have pride games and we wear the merch to the games, the rainbow scarves and do all that sort of
Mhm,
thing. Education is another key piece. And unfortunately, with what's happened with people like Isaac Rankin and some of the other players, is education seems to be being used as a punishment. You've done this, you need to go to Pride in Sport education. And it comes across as a punishment rather than
mhm,
something that's intrinsically part of the culture. And the other thing is a policy change. What is the policy when these kind of incidents happen? Because it's very unclear
mhm.
at the moment. We've seen this week, and I think what's dragged it out and made sure they're trying to make everyone happy, but they've made no one happy,
I agree. Yep.
is that it's like it was a 5 week suspension, and for mysterious reasons, because he got knocked out in a
Medical
game, you know,
conditions.
previously with this team,
Mhm,
that he got knocked down to 4 weeks. And it's like, well, why is that? What's that got to do with the homophobic slur? We're not sure. Which has also left him in a position that if Adelaide do lose a final game and
he could
still
still
go on
play
to
in the
play the
grand
grand
final.
final, that he could play in the
Yep.
grand final. But there seems to be this pattern where there seems to be a script.
Hmm.
I'm starting to hear with these players when they come out, where the first thing they'll do, they sort of have this "I need to do better," motto.
Hmm.
So the first thing they do is they apologise. They say, "I'm sorry for what I've done," and etc.
I
Then
don't want
they,
I don't want to cut you off really quickly, but again, as somebody in the community, do you really take them at their word? Because there are sometimes like,
mm,
and I don't mean to hit the crows here, because again, I don't think the crows are just as to blame for this whole situation as it, because I understand that everybody was like,
yes,
we need to defend the player. I get it, but there are some times you need to let the player cop the whack they deserve. And for me, I kind of almost think that Adelaide's response kind of made it worse. But like, I'll ask this: be honest, be as truthful on this. Do you really take them at their word? Because I almost kind of feel like there have been some apologies where it's like they're reading a script. I don't see much, how to
yeah.
say it,
Well,
contrition
this is
out
what
of
I'm
it.
saying. There is this weird script, and
Yeah.
it's like, they say I don't reflect the values of the club. The club says it's not who we are, and then they're wrapping their arms around the player. It seems to follow this script every
Hmm.
time, and then no real change seems to be happening. Something's not getting into the psyche.
Hmm.
These words are used to upset another player.
Hmm.
So they're using homophobic words to try and upset another player. And what then happens is, I was really disappointed in the Crows captain, Jordan Dawson. and coaches like Damien Hardwick and Eddie Maguire, who basically said, no, there's no problem in the AFL with homophobia, or that the punishment was too harsh.
Yep. Too severe. Yep.
And I just, I think what they're not understanding is it might not have hurt the other player. You know, what Isaac Rankin said may not have directly hurt the player he said that to.
Hmm.
But who it does hurt is young queer kids
Hmm.
that don't feel welcome to come to the footy.
Hmm.
For players in the AFL, and it is the only sporting code pretty much in the world where no gay man has come out,
Hmm.
he
While
doesn't feel
while
comfortable to come
active,
out.
while active, I think there has been one that's retired, but it's that I've seen that too. Yeah, that there is no active player that
No,
has come
there's no
out.
past or present AFL player. There is Jason Ball,
Oh
for
yeah, you're right.
example.
Yep, you're right.
He played for the VFL,
Yep.
but in the AFL, in the
Hmm.
senior men's group, which
Competition.
is the
Hmm.
main group everyone follows, not one gay man has felt comfortable coming out.
Yep.
And I know there's gay men in the AFL. I,
Statistically, it
I,
is
I
impossible for
know
it not
there
to be. Yeah.
is.
Hmm.
I personally know that. And they don't feel comfortable coming to the Brownlow, which is the best and fairest, walking with their male partner down the red carpet, coming out and being honest about their relationship. I mean, every week you get an announcement by a male heterosexual player that is engaged or getting married. The off season's full of photos of marriages.
Or having a
Never
child.
has a gay man come out, and I
Hmm.
think what they're not understanding is that connection to the language and how
Yep.
it's affecting that,
Hmm. Well, and
and that gay men are opting out of even playing football because
yep.
they don't feel safe to play football.
Well, and
So
the
it's
other thing too that I saw a few people point out, and it's really kind of true. It's like you are aware, like Adelaide Crows, you are aware that your women's team is one of the best in the league, and your
yes,
captain for several of those premierships is a very out gay
yeah,
woman.
Chelsea Randall.
Chelsea,
She had got
and
married
she helped coach
to
some
another
of these
player.
men too. I'm sitting here going like it's frustrating because you're literally contradicting yourself right in front of
Mm,
everybody, that anybody that pays attention to footy and all. Okay. And again, and this is where the women do not get the coverage that they want, because if so, it would really make what Dawson said, even how Knicks has kind of handled it a little bit too, and the Crows as a whole. Like I've heard somebody say this. I want Jordan Dawson to walk up to Chelsea Randall and have the balls to say what he said to her. Say it
yes.
and
Mm,
see how she reacts, because all you're telling her is that it doesn't matter. And that's
yeah.
the most frustrating part when it comes to it, because you have one of the best teams in the entire competition when it comes to records, premierships, all that. Several women on your women's team are very much part of that community. Have the balls to go tell them that. If I'm some of the, I'm never one for mutiny, but the Adelaide Crows women have every right to be upset with the club
Oh,
because of how
100%.
they've handled it. Like,
Uh, and
oh,
the AFL. Like the
I'm not gonna, I will hold the AFL to the fire. They have handled this atrociously, because basically what they've told people of that community is finals are more important. We
yes,
don't care
yes,
whether you come to the games or not. Finals are more important. Isaac Rankin playing potentially in a grand final is more important than a young man or a young woman who is who is queer, LGBTQ, IA plus, all of them. It does. You do not matter as much as that player having the chance to play in a grand final. That is what the AFL has said, and it is
yes,
incredibly frustrating because Kate McCarthy said it perfectly. If you are about zero tolerance, what you just did contradicted it completely. And that's the
yes,
most frustrating part, because if there's zero tolerance, you don't make an exception. You do not. You actually punish more. I'm going to say this, Fee, and I don't care if I piss a lot of people off. In my personal opinion, the next suspension should be a full season lost. Done.
Yeah.
18 games for the men, if not 23, a full season. Maybe that'll get it through some of these players' thick skulls that maybe these words shouldn't be said. And then my other favorite people are coming out, well, what some of the Collingwood players said about not about Houston knocking him out. I don't care. It's meaningless. If you are that emotional that you can't handle a sledge that is really not that big a deal. I understand it. You got knocked out. Okay. It happens. Okay. It's footy. Sometimes shit happens. Okay. But if you can't handle it and you have to go there, it just shows you that the education that you have said is deemed as a punishment. It's not actually seen as something to help you become a better person and a more
Mm.
inclusive person. I'm not going to
As
get
far as
off.
I can tell, and from what I've heard, it's online training with modules that you click through.
Yep.
And
So you
and
don't
I
even have
go,
to retain it.
yeah, that's right. It's not like it is a facilitator in a room
Mm,
doing proper education with every single club. I mean, this is a real cultural shift that needs to happen.
I agree.
And they're subscribed these online modules that they have to click through.
Yep.
The policy is really unclear. I mean, one player got 6 weeks last year,
Mhm.
one player's got 3 weeks. Isaac Rankin had 5, went down to 4. What is the policy?
Yep.
It's really unclear.
He didn't
And
self-report like Jack Graham did earlier in the year, who got four for
yeah,
self-reporting. And again,
yes,
it's there is no clear and concise, but then again, though the AFL is very good with suspensions on being clear and concise. I say that in jest, okay? So it's no laughing matter, but it is very, very frustrating that I feel like, and then it doesn't help that everything that's happened with the podcast with Snoop Dogg, so it actually gave Adelaide
yes.
a little bit of momentum. Originally, I thought they were talking about his songs, and then I heard the podcast, and yeah, that doesn't really. The AFL is really good this year. I said this before. Right now, the AFL is like the meme where where they're the person standing in a circle of rakes, and they keep stepping on the rake and getting hit in the face with the handle. And no matter what way they turn, they hit a rake and the rake hits them in the face. That is how the AFL looks this year. They cannot not step on a rake and hit themselves in the face. They have not approached any of this
Mm.
well at all. And that's the most frustrating part. So I'm turbed off at the Crows for how they handled it. I think sometimes you got to let the player cop a whack. It's I say that to the Players Association all the time too. I understand that you're supposed to protect the player, but there is a point where the player needs to just kind of be, hey, dude, pull your head in. You can't do that. Let them cop their whack. You can put your arms around them, which is, again, it's a little bit like your script, as you said. They say it all the time. It's like, what the heck does that even mean? Okay. If you're not having the players back in the first place, but there does become a point where you have to let them cop the whack that they deserve. And that's the most frustrating. So we'll take our soapbox from that. We'll put it over in the corner again. We will continue to fight for these particular things. Again, I have many, many friends like Fee. I'm passionate about this because
Yeah,
these are great people. They do not deserve the bull that they have to go through when it comes to it. So I you have no idea how many I wanted to reach out and hug because of all of this. I'm
yeah,
very passionate about this because nobody deserves to not be feeling comfortable at the football. It is sport. Okay. It is sport. I understand life is not going to be perfect, but come on, be a human being to these people. Nobody
yeah.
deserves to be disrespected because of who they love, who they care for. That's the biggest thing for me. Football
Mm.
should be bringing people together, not ripping them apart. So, thank you, Fee. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Donnie.
I know this is not an easy subject, and I know it's very frustrating for somebody in the community to again feel that that there's words. It's empty, empty words from so many people. So, let's go to the positive. Let's go to the positive. Let's go to the women. 2 rounds in, I know, only 2 rounds in, but it has been fantastic. What teams for you have been the most impressive so far in the first 2 rounds of the AFLW?
I think we can't go past North Melbourne and who won the premiership last year. and also Melbourne. I mean, Melbourne's top of the ladder at the moment.
Mhm.
And I love the percentage at this time of year. It's like 520% at the top of the
Uh-huh.
ladder and 383%. So it doesn't quite balance out yet. But look, there's five teams that have won both of their games, and there's also five teams that haven't won any games down at the bottom. So uh, I guess round three is going to be interesting in terms of does that divide grow wider or does it start to balance out a little bit? So we will see.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm the team North Melbourne is impressive, but I kind of knew that they would be one of the teams to beat. The scary part is they still don't have Emma Carney. Vicky Wall is still getting up to full speed because
Yeah.
She was playing her Gaelic season. You're still. I'm hoping that Kim Rennie isn't a Achilles. I don't think so. It sounded like it's an ankle sprain, but I haven't seen the injury report yet to see if that's been discussed yet or not by the North Melbourne um, Kangaroos. Um, I've been impressed by the Western Bulldogs, but just because, again, they were a team they're very young, very inexperienced. They get Ellie Blackburn back, which is fantastic, but I loved what they did against the Richmond Tigers because I know there were several pundits out there that had Richmond potentially being a finals team. So to get a win as a young team against a Richmond side by 21 was super impressive. I'm trying not to homer so because I know there's a lot of people. I know Kate McCartney was actually waxing lyrical about Sydney, saying that they're the side that she says is the most fun to watch this year. Again, I has it been the most difficult two opponents at the start of the year? Probably not. I knew Gold Coast was going to struggle a little bit. They're without a couple of their better players. They're still kind of gelling. I know Lauren Bello had her first game back this week. So for me, Sydney is kind of a watch a little bit. I want to see how they go against Geelong this week. If they get another impressive win over Geelong, then you might start seeing me trumpet a little bit more of could Sydney be that team that could get into the top four? Could they be
Yeah.
fighting for a flag if things go right? Because North Melbourne is so good. They're just so good. I don't know if they can impress me anymore because I knew they were going to be one of the better teams. A chance at another unbeaten season is definitely possible. I hope not. And this is not me trying to downgrade the Rouge. No, it's I want a season with some parity. And as long as
Yes.
you have North, as long as you have Brisbane kind of as those the vaulted ones up there, it's harder for me to love the sport when I know kind of what's going to happen when it comes to Brisbane and North Melbourne. So I know that their fan bases absolutely love it, and that's fine. Enjoy it while you have it. But when the league balances out to the parity towards like each year, you're going, oh, well, this team could win it, this team can win it. There's five or six teams can win it instead of like two or three. Then it's going to be perfect. And I know it's
Yeah,
coming.
that's what you want. You want that
Yep, yep,
drama right towards the end of the
yep.
season. I think Emma Carney resigning as captain for North Melbourne. Uh, I mean, she's been such a veteran player for so long. I think it's going to make room for a lot more younger players to come through.
Yep, no, I agree. It's gonna
And
be
look, they're still going strong without her being the captain. So it's I think they are looking very good. But yeah, your Swannies, you're right up there at their grill. So uh, yeah, I'm excited to see what you get up to.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Like I said, this week's gonna be the litmus test because
Yeah, I think this week's really going to be telling.
yep,
And you're right, this is free air week, like this is the bye round.
yep.
And I generally find people get a bit more excited about women's footy when there's no men's footy to suffocate it.
Yep, 100% on that one. So now, normally, yours truly would do team of the week, but I will mea culpa myself on this one. I did all the work, but unfortunately, life sometimes happens. Had tons of things going on, so I'm going to take a break from it for this week, especially considering we have men's finals and the women's round three to tip. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to go straight to tipping. I know this is probably not Fee's favorite part because because
I love to be.
we're still early in the week on this one. So let's tip the women and then we will go through the finals. We will tip the last game in the men's, and then we will do our finals off of how we tip. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different, so stay with us on this one. So let's jump to the women's round three tipping Friday night footy. Seas of the fun one. We have we have Indigenous round. So we get to go up to Darwin. This is fantastic. Cannot wait.
Awesome.
Richmond, Essendon, up at TIO Stadium, up in Darwin. All right, Fee. Who do you like? Bombers, Tigers.
I'm going to tip the Bombers for this one. I think a lot of the there's a big connection between the Bombers and the Tiwi Islands and the Northern Territory up there. So some of the couple of the girls come from the Tiwi Islands, and yeah, the Indigenous round is really special when the Indigenous game is played in Darwin. The ceremonies before the game and the atmosphere around the game and being up there is it's really special. So looking forward to that, but I'm going to tip the Bombers.
Yep, I'm going to go with the Bombers on this one. Think they've just been a little bit more consistent. As much as I'd love to see the Tigs get up, I think the Bombers and this one. Let's jump over to Henson Park as GWA's face Kirwarna, I think is how you say it again. If I butcher it, my apologies.
Yes.
Adelaide Crows, GWS Adelaide tip the Crows in this one. Unfortunately, the loss of Elise Parker, I think, really has kind of hit GWS. They survived. They challenged Collingwood, but unfortunately, Collingwood just a little bit too good. So I have the Crows in this one. I'm
Yeah, me
hoping
too.
GWS keep it competitive. I worry that the third and fourth quarters could get ugly.
Yes, it could be, but it is played at home in Sydney, so Henson Park. So it's a ground that's pretty special local parks, pro local ground. So hopefully they can give something to the home crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to tip the Crows.
Yeah. So after that, we see St. Kilda at home at RSEA Park hosting the West Coast Eagles. The Eagles get another game in Victoria. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to say the Eagles. I think I think they are gonna shine a little bit this year. Maybe just need a bit more consistency, but I think I'm going to tip the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on this one. I went back and forth a little bit, but I think the Eagles have been a little bit more consistent in these first two games. St. Kilda has been kind of a yo-yo. They had that great win over Adelaide, and it kind of looked like a blip when they got absolutely crushed this last week. So I'm not 100% sure where St. Kilda is. I'm pretty confident I see about what West Coast is going to do this year under Daisy. So I think I'm going to tip West Coast just because of consistency for me. A fun one. GMHBA Stadium as the Cats host the Red Hot Swans. Fascinating on this one. Normally I will I will try not to red hat Donnie, but I can't not. I'm going to tip the Swans in
Oh,
this one. I think their ball movement is going to give Geelong headaches. I still think this is going to be competitive. Georgie Prasparkas, Nita Morrison are never an easy matchup to face. It'll be interesting who does Coach Gowans tag one of them, and if so, which one? Does he tag the outside runner in Nina, or does he tag the ball winner in Georgie Prasparkas? And can
hmm.
Zippy Fish put up 26 again? Can she keep it going? That'll be fun. Does Geelong
Your
try to take
favorite.
her out of the
Yeah,
game? Oh
absolute
yeah,
favorite, Donny.
absolutely.
Look, GmbH AU Stadium is one of the only, I guess, what would you call it, men's
AFL
grounds
AFL
that
grounds that you would
AFL
say, yeah.
grounds that
Yeah.
the women actually play at. It's a pretty special stadium. It's got a
Hmm.
big function centre, one of the biggest function centres in the AFL grounds. So, uh, look, hopefully the Geelong Cats don't bomb out in front of all their crowd because they will get a big crowd there.
Hmm.
But I'm going to tip your Swannies. I think your
Yeah,
Swannies are just dominating at the moment. So.
I want to see how much red and white's there because I know with the North with the South Melbourne connection, I know that there's a lot of Swans fans down in Victoria. So it'd be interesting to see can the red and white army show up and make it an interesting
Yeah, although it's a
fill the
long
bowl a
drive
little bit
down
more.
that Geelong freeway, let me tell you, if you lose. So
Yeah, yeah,
I've
I
driven down
agree.
that after a couple of losses and it feels like a 10-hour drive.
But that's gonna be a fun one. I think that's good. That could be game of the round. I know everybody's looking at third versus 16th. Cats are a much better team than 16th. They just had a couple of really difficult first two opponents. So I think this could be game of the round. Have a shot for that for sure. Fun one over at Alberton Oval as the Port Adelaide Power or Yarta Pulti as they're called for the Indigenous round take on the Gold Coast Suns. Fun one over in Adelaide. Who you like in this one?
I'm going to tip Port Adelaide just because they're both teams that I think they're 18th and 17th at the moment, so they're both right on the bottom of the ladder. It's a bottom of the ladder clash, but because it's played at Adelaide Oval, I think we've got to tip Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm gonna tip Port in this one just because hey, I like the Suns, but I think the Suns, like I said, they're missing a few. They're missing a few pieces. They're still kind of getting everybody up to it. I know Lucy Single and Lauren Bella were back, but you could tell they were a little bit behind. Whether they were fully up to 100% fitness will be the question on this. I think Port has faced a couple of difficult opponents. I think they'll bounce back and get the win in front of the teal and black faithful for sure. So Port for me on this one. Fun one at Witten Oval. I know you'll be very intrigued for this one as the Western Bulldogs host your beloved Hawthorn Hawks. As the Hawks supporter you are, will the Hawks get the win over the Doggies, or can the Doggies spring a surprise?
Yeah, I know. I think the Hawks will. I'm going to tip the Hawks will beat Western Bulldogs there. Um, yeah, I mean we're playing so well. We've beaten Brisbane and Carlton now. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't beat Western Bulldogs. They're certainly not playing well. They didn't have a great season last year either. So I'm going to tip my Hawks.
Yep, I'm going to tip the Hawks in this one. Just a little too much talent. Hopefully they'll let the girls play instead of all of these free kicks.
Yeah, stop rewarding the tackles, and we might get some ball play.
All right, we'll go to Victoria Park as the red hot Melbourne Demons come into town to face the Collingwood Magpies. It'll be a fascinating one in this one. The D's look incredible. I know they lost Liv Purcell, unfortunately. Thoughts and good vibes sent to her. Unfortunately, an ACL tear, really devastating loss for them. But again, the D's, they're so good. Taylor Hanks, Taylor Harris, Paxi Paxman is back to some of her incredible football. My apologies. I'm sorry. They have been playing some fantastic football. I want to be sure that I have the correct pronouns. My apologies, Paxi, on that one. Yeah, Nam is playing fantastic football right now. So
Yes.
good. Gonna say Melbourne on that one. I love the Pies, but a little too young, a little too inexperienced.
Yeah, and hopefully Melbourne will get their percentage up to 700% or something after that game.
Oh boy. Yeah, it'll be a fun one on that one. Out to Fremantle in the West Coast as WA as Fremantle or Walyalup will take on the North Melbourne Kangaroos. North too good in this one. As much as I,
Yeah,
I like Fremantle, I really like
yeah, and
them.
over there as well. It's
Yeah,
you would expect the
yeah.
Western Australian team to win, but in this case, I think we've got to tip North Melbourne.
But Brisbane went out and handed them a thrashing, and I think North Melbourne's playing a little bit better football than Brisbane was at the time. Hoping Fremantle again. I want a competitive game, but unfortunately, I think North Melbourne just a little bit too strong. Does Jazz Garner go for another fifer? That'll be fascinating to see on that one. So, and
Yes.
last but not least, up at Brighton Homes Arena, Brisbane Lions v Carlton Blues. Who do you like in this one?
This is actually played in Ipswich now. Donny,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know how to give you a picture of Ipswich. It's about 40 kilometres outside Brisbane, and it's a bit of a rough town. But I would tip the Brisbane Lions over Carlton on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Brisbane just a little bit too good. I know. Carlton is a pesky side. They're competitive. They like to get after you, but just don't think they have the horses to go with Brisbane on that one. So that is the women's tipped. We have a bye week before the men's finals get started, but we do, crazy enough, have one more game left in the men's season, which will now depict the finals. Sophie, we're going to have some fun here. We're going to play Nostradamus, okay? We're going to tip this game between Gold Coast and Essendon, which this episode will probably come out either just before that or just after it.
Mm.
Um, and what our tip will be will determine our finals bracket. So I will say this: Gold Coast, Essendon, People's First Stadium up in Gold Coast. So you have three different options for this: Essendon win, Gold Coast win under 4 goals, Gold Coast win 5 goals or more, because that tip affects the finals bracket. So try not to have your Hawthorn scarf too high on this decision, okay? So here we go. Gold Coast, Essendon. We're gonna set our bracket for this, okay? Gold Coast, Essendon. 5 goal plus, 4 goal or less win for Gold Coast, or an Essendon win. What's your tip?
Well, if Gold Coast win by more than 4 goals, they'll end up seventh
Yep.
from my calculations. And if they lose by less, they'll end up eighth.
Hmm.
Look, I'm going to tip they're going to smash the Bombers. Like I just can't see it going any other way. The Bombers have been terrible in this season, and I can't see them. They couldn't beat Carlton last week. I can't see them,
I'm with
doing too much damage, to be honest.
I
So I think the Gold Coast are going to walk all over them.
I think the way Hardwick responded after the loss to Port Adelaide, I think this is going to be a Gold Coast team that I think they're going to get it to like 40 and then they're going to coast and try to make sure that they maintain it over 5 goals so then they get that 7th seed. The fun part is then that means they go to Fremantle. So it'd be interesting. Does Damian Hardwick play a little bit and try to get that matchup with GWS? So it's less of a
Yeah.
travel. I know it's a weird thought process to think that he's
No,
going to
I
set it
agree. I
up that way,
agree. But
but
that's a version of tanking, though, isn't it?
a little bit, but it's a thought process. I'm not sure everybody's thinking about it, but does Damian Hardwick think about it in a way where does he want to save the travel and stay in the eastern part of the country and play GWS? The problem with that
Mm,
though is that GWS has handed them their tushy less than 3 weeks ago. So do you want to face that team that's just smashed you, or do you want to get that matchup against a Fremantle team that is notorious for falling apart in the finals?
good
So
questions, Donny.
it's a
I
fun thought
think,
process. I
yeah,
think they do. I agree with you. I think they smash them. But that's if Damian Hardwick plays it straight up. If Damian Hardwick plays games, I could see them trying to get it under 5 to stay in the eastern part. I don't think so. I think he's pissed. I think he's very, very upset. I think he absolutely spat the dummy after losing to Port Adelaide. And I think they come out and they try to tear Essendon's heads off, which it's not going to be fun and it's not going to be the most entertaining game to watch, but it will not shock me if Gold Coast absolutely go for the jugular.
yeah. Look, I don't think either of those options are great options for them playing GWS or playing
I
Fremantle.
100% agree
Yeah,
with
look,
you.
the travel might factor into it, but that's about it. I think both of those options are terrifying for the Gold Coast.
Yep, yep.
Um, they could get their ass handed to them on a platter from either team. So I don't think, would you tank that little bit just to avoid going to WA? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't think so, but Damian Hardwick is a unique individual, shall we say?
Yeah.
So we'll go. So we will lock that in. Gold Coast win by more than 5 for both of us. So that sets up
Yes.
this bracket. Adelaide versus Collingwood, 1-4 matchup. Fremantle versus Hawthorn in the 5-8 matchup, Gold Coast versus GWS in the 6-7 matchup, and Geelong versus Brisbane in the 2-3 matchup. So, all right,
Mm.
Fee, we've got our bracket. Let's do our tip. Let's see who's going to raise a flag at the end of the year. We'll start off 1v4, Adelaide Oval, Adelaide Crows, Collingwood Magpies. Who's on to the prelim and who's down to the semifinals?
So Adelaide Crows and Collingwood. I'm going to tip Adelaide, and that would also be tipping Isaac Rankin not to play in the grand final because there's not enough. His 4 week suspension won't cover him.
Yep.
And then Geelong Cats and Brisbane Lions. I'm going to tip Geelong. Um, I think I think they're well. It's hard. It's as I've said, it's pretty hard to see what Geelong's current form is because they've only played bottom four teams in the lead up
Mhm.
to the end of the home and away season. But Jeremy Cameron probably kick 6 or 7 goals, and then that'll be it. I think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on both those tips. I like Adelaide. I think Collingwood still they're a little bit rudderless. I think Jeremy Howe's injury does not help them, especially going up against the three-headed monster in the forward line of the Crows. I think the Crows Ferals are going to be kind of trying to wrap themselves around to try to insulate the club. I think getting to play football, I think will be good for the club to kind of get the whole situation out again. I know that there's several fans of several clubs that are hoping that Adelaide goes out in straight sets. I'm not one of them. I understand the club's response. I don't like it, but I understood it. I just don't like the way they went about it. Okay. So I'm going to tip the Crows in this one. I'm with you on that one. Same thing, Cats on that one. Now let's see these semifinal opponents. Your Hawthorn Hawks go west to face Fremantle out in WA. Do your Hawks move on, or does Fremantle hold home field and set a matchup with Collingwood in the semifinal?
Hang on, sorry, could you say that again? My brain just froze up.
Your Hawks head west to face Fremantle out for the elimination final out in Optus Stadium. Does
Yes.
your Hawks get a win out west, or does Fremantle hold serve at home to
Mm.
set up a matchup with Collingwood in the semifinal?
Yeah, I look, I wouldn't. I have to admit, I'm not impressed with where the Hawks are at the moment. I don't think we're quite finals ready. Um, we might win one game, but I would say if we're playing Fremantle out west, we would probably be sent home on the red eye flight back home to Melbourne. Like I just can't see us winning. I mean, even that game against Brisbane last week, we were just never really in the game, um, constantly scrambling, making lots of mistakes. I just can't see us beating a team like Fremantle, especially in the form that they're in at the moment. So I would tip Fremantle for that one.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm with you. I like Fremantle the way they're going. My only worry is that that took a lot of emotion. The good thing is having that week off to kind of down. Like, if they were playing this week, I'd probably tip Hawthorn because it is not easy to go from that high, getting a huge upset win and then playing the next week because there's almost always a downturn. So having that gap week, having that bye week in between, I think helps Fremantle stabilize and brings them in. I agree with you. I think Fremantle win, but if I'm Hawthorn, man, I wish you could play this week because it would probably be better to face Fremantle coming off the high of this game, travel, than it would having the bye weekend. So I'm with you, Fremantle on this one. And then we go to the expansion cup, as we say, GWS versus Gold Coast. This will be at NG Stadium in Sydney. GWS Gold Coast. Who sets a date with Brisbane in the semifinal?
I would say GWS would smash that one.
Yep, I'm with you
Uh,
on that one.
they're
I got
playing they are playing very, very well, and Gold Coast, especially lately, have just been really inconsistent. That really bad loss, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. Um, I they lost to Port Adelaide last week. I think they're just not playing consistently enough to convince me. So I'm gonna say GWS would win that.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. I think GWS a little too strong. Gold Coast first time in the finals. It's a whole different animal than the home and away season. I think GWS with that experience get the win on that one. So that sets up these two semifinals: Collingwood versus Fremantle. That will be at the MCG, and then GWS versus Brisbane. That one should be at the Gabba. So let's see, who do the Cats get to face? Collingwood, Fremantle. Who do you like to move on to the preliminary final?
I think they'll probably face Fremantle, I'd say.
Okay.
Um, and I think Geelong would win that game. Might be the end of the road for Fremantle. If it was Collingwood, yeah, that would be the end of the road for Collingwood too, I'd say.
All right, and then Brisbane GWS at the Gabba. Who gets to face Adelaide in the preliminary
Ooh,
final?
that's a tough one.
It is. This is
It's tough to beat Brisbane at the Gabba. Uh, but I think if there's a team that could do it, it would be GWS. But who knows? They've got a way of slaying the big players, GWS. They're good at taking the heads of big teams. But that's a close one. That's a really hard one to tip. Perhaps
Mhm.
Brisbane, I'd say, just because it's the Gabba.
All right. So I'm gonna agree. I am gonna agree with you. Brisbane versus GWS. I think the Lions' experience from last year, I think, will really help them. GWS. It's gonna be fun to see. Does Kingsley bring up the year before's performance in this same particular round, where
Mm.
GWS went out in straight sets? Can they send Brisbane home in straight sets? I don't think so. I think the experience in the midfield, which is one of those places where GWS sometimes can get exposed. The tsunami can't get going if they don't have the football. So I like Brisbane in this one. I am with you. I like Fremantle to knock off Collingwood. I don't like the mojo at Collingwood. I think Fly has actually started to grate on people. He used to be the happy-go-lucky, everybody loves Fly. Fly is this sweet, kind guy, the aw shucks type of bloke. He's kind of become an arrogant prick. And I hate saying that way, and I don't mean to use crude language, but he's kind of become arrogant over the last season and a half a little bit with this Collingwood side. I think they come in a little bit cocky because they know they're at home, they get the MCG. I think Fremantle come over there knowing they're playing with house money at this point. Nobody expected them to get this far. I think Fremantle knock off the Pies, even at the
Oh, yeah, there you go.
MCG, set up an MCG preliminary final against the Cats because we can't play it. We can't play a preliminary final down at GMHBA.
No.
So we will have Adelaide Oval hosting Brisbane versus Adelaide, and the other preliminary final MCG, Fremantle and Geelong. Who's playing off in the grand final?
Ooh. So Fremantle and Geelong and Adelaide and
Brisbane.
Brisbane. I would say Adelaide would win against Brisbane and Fremantle and Geelong. Oh, I would say Geelong would win that, and then Adelaide and Geelong.
Okay, Adelaide and Geelong. I am going to go Adelaide, yes, but I'm going to tip a stunner here. I think the Dockers get to the grand final.
Wow,
I
boom,
like them.
boom.
I like them.
I
I
would
like the
love
way
you
their
to be
defense
right.
is
I would love
playing.
you to be right on that, Donny.
Well, the reason that I would love it is because it would give Fremantle another. Like I said, I'm going to fall in love with it. I'm going to fall in love with this. Is Nat Five having a chance to win a premiership in his final season? I'm going to go with it only because Geelong is horrible off bye weeks. And getting a bye week into a preliminary final, facing a Fremantle team that has basically been playing elimination finals for the last 8 weeks, they're going to be much more battle hardened. They don't have to, they're going to be playing at a bigger, expansive ground, which will help them. They have that experience in the back, they have experience in the forward, they have experience in the midfield. I like Fremantle in that game. I think they have the ability to shut Geelong down enough and possess the football to the point where I think they can get it done. So I'm going to have Fremantle versus Adelaide in the grand final. It's going to be fun because no Victorian team in the grand final
Well,
always
that's what I
makes.
was just about to say. Is that you've set up a grand final with two interstate teams, and look, I think that's good for footy as well.
I agree.
Um, I remember when the Eagles were in the grand final a few years ago. Not that you can imagine that at the moment. Um, there was people driving across the Nullarbor, and to give you an idea, that's a 3-day drive
Hmm.
right across one end of Australia to the other, and they were driving just to see their team play in the grand final.
Yep.
Um, so it is good for footy when that happens.
Yep. Nope. Like I said, I just have this feeling that Fremantle will do it. So, okay. So your grand final is Geelong versus Adelaide. My grand final is Fremantle versus Adelaide. Who will you tip as your premier? The Cats or the Crows?
I'm going to tip Adelaide Crows for the premiership this year, and it will make my co-host Beckdale very happy if that happens. But yeah, I think they're just dominating at the moment. Although they nearly got beaten by the Kangaroos on the weekend, so uh, who knows? But I think they're the dominant team at the
All right.
moment.
Well, do me a favor. Next time you talk to Beck, let her know that both of us tipped the same thing. Because I have the Crows winning. I have the
Hey,
Crows winning the grand final as well. I like the way they're playing. I know a lot of people are like, well, they won't have Isaac Rankin. Honestly, I think they're going to be okay without him. I think they've played really well. They should get Josh Rochelle back come this finals, which I think he's very similar when it comes to impact on the footy. I know he's a little bit more forward than midfield. I like the matchup. I think this would be an incredible grand final. I think it'd come down to the wire. I think it'd be a fantastic grand final to I know that some of the Victorians will grumble because the Victorian team's not there, but I think this would be an incredible game of football to watch. I think it'd be fantastic. I have the Crows winning the whole thing. I like the way they're playing. It's going to be fascinating. I cannot wait for this finals. I know we get a bye week, so like I said, I am going to enjoy the heck out of the women's games
yes.
this week's and then the fun of finals and the women's. Cannot wait. This is one of my favorite times of the year. So much important fantastic football. The, as per usual, an incredible conversation. I truly, truly love sitting down and chatting with you. It is so much fun getting your take on this. It is so much fun. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been an incredibly fun chat.
Thanks so much, Donny. Thanks for having me, and it's been so great to know there's so much support in the US for our great game. And you've been so passionate about following what's going on in the AFL, and it's really encouraging to know there's a whole league out there in the US that are playing footy, loving footy, and that you're talking about it over there. So if any of you are ever in Australia, look me up. I'd love to take you to a game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, I joked with a few people over here. I said if I really could, I could probably couch surf across about half of Australia with
You
all of the
really good.
contacts that I have
You
because
absolutely could.
I have friends in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, and several in the. I think I've even got a few contacts down in Tassie, which I'm hoping that the Tassie license gets up. I think the only one that I'm not 100% sure if I have any contacts is the Northern Territory. That's the only state I think that I don't
I'm
have.
sure we can work something out.
I could
Um,
probably find
I can actually
somebody
give
for
you
sure. So
a whole spare bedroom. So,
that is awesome. I will
yeah,
probably take you up if I'm gonna get there. I just have to. It's the finances and the
love to take you to a game, Johnny.
and then the problem I have though is I have to choose when because I really would love to get down there to be able to see not only a men's game but a women's game as well. So maybe if they continue this overlap stuff, I may be able to see both and be able to enjoy some footy in that. I know I have several people that have already said if I get down there that the beers will be free, which will be fun. So that is going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like what you were listening to, if you like the way yours truly covers the footy from a little bit of a different side of the world, please like and subscribe and keep an eye on it. We will have the wrap ups for the state leagues. I know the sample show will be coming off a little bit later as we preview the men's finals as we get ready for men's finals in the sample. The waffle, unfortunately, my co host has calmed down with some he's feeling a little bit ill, so we will do a mega episode covering both the men's and women's waffle finals, covering who's winning the premiership and how they did it. And as per usual, the VFL, we will cover the women's and men's finals in that last episode of the year before we hit the off season and my off season supporter series, which I'm brewing up right now. I think you guys are going to enjoy this fun little off season supporter series that I have setting up currently, along with a few interviews. I've had the luxury of rounding up some players and some people who I think are going to be fantastic chats that I think you're going to like. So that is going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.